the coast of Panama, and that's when the war actually ended. We were on the Atlantic side, waiting to get transited through. And we were there a couple of days because there was just so much traffic in the canal. And again, if you'll recall, I mentioned the destroyer Rodman. Well, we saw then coming out of the Panama Canal ships really just devastated by these kamikazes. They were being sent to East Coast for repairs. But anyway, they finally we got our turn, and it went through the canal. As I recall, we went through in daylight, and it probably took something like 8 hours to get through it. But it was interesting, and so we were small ships, so they put 6 of us together. They tied 6 of us together and moved us through the canal that way. So it wasn't like we were a big battleship or ocean liner going through on your own. I'll give you an idea of the size of the ship. In fact, I don't think I've said anything about that. The ship was only about 125 feet long. It was about 40 feet wide. And we had a crew, as I recall, of about 120 men. Counting the officers, I'd say it was about 120 men. That's quite a few men for the size of the ship. But you needed them, if you were firing the rockets, you needed a lot of hands to lift the rockets onto racks, get them into position to fire, and so you had plenty of manpower. But anyway, we went through the canal, and then we went up the west coast of South or Central America and southern Mexico, and in fact, when we were within sight of the coast, and I recall we were able to use our optical rangefinder, which was like a super binocular. We could look at the Acapulco, Mexico, which even back then, that was the big-time posh resort. And there was a song by the name Acapulco at the time. I can't quite remember, but it was in like the top 10 of songs, and they were playing that on the ship. Well, it was pretty good. And then we got to San Diego. And I'm just going to take a little moment's pause right here, and I'll start it again. Well, here we are again. And now I'll tell you about San Diego, because we did spend quite a bit of time on our ship in and around there. We got there around September 1st, 1945, and so it's certainly a beautiful bay. Being on the west coast, maybe most of the Draper family has been down there for all I know, but it really, at that time, San Diego didn't have nearly the population it does today, but it was beautiful. It truly was a beautiful area. And the bay itself was just magnificent. You sailed in and sailed around into the bay, past what they call North Island Naval Air Station. And that was a naval air station back at the time when Lindbergh was flying the Atlantic. In fact, he took off with the Spirit of St. Louis from North Island and flew nonstop to St. Louis, Missouri on his way east to complete his flight to Paris. So that, anyway, this North Island Naval Air Station is just stupendous in size. And also, there was the Coronado Beach Hotel, which was old then. I guess it was built in the 1890s, and they've kept it up since then. I'd love to see it again someday. It was truly a magnificent site with more or less, like I would call it, Victorian architecture. But anyway, San Diego Bay was a big place, and it was also, they had a big Navy yard there. So we came into there, and so in the month of September, October, November, while we were there, all these ships were coming back from the Pacific now that the war was over. And they'd come in with their big homeward bound pennants streaming off of their highest mast and so on. And I guess, again, it shows the futility of war, because I literally saw 100 destroyers alone, maybe 100 destroyer escorts, battleships, several battleships, aircraft carriers. They would tie up the North Island Naval Air Station docks, and just incredible, the amount of Navy ships. In fact, there were probably more Navy ships there by around Christmas time of 1945. There were probably more than is in the Navy and all around the world today. That's how stupendous it was. It was wall-to-wall ships. We were tied up in the middle of the bay and all different spots, because it was very hard to find accommodations for everybody. But it was a very stirring thing too, especially when the aircraft carriers would come in, and they'd be out in the Pacific Ocean, maybe, I don't know, say 25 or 50 miles from San Diego. They would fly the planes off, and each carrier's planes, as they were coming back from the Pacific, they would come over, maybe 100 planes in a formation. I mean, you could hear it coming from a long way away. The drone would build up. It was quite a magnificent sight to see them all, and then, of course, they'd all peel off one by one and land right behind each other. And after a while, because we could clearly see the whole airfield at North Island as we went in and out of the bay, just row on row on row, literally well over 1,000 military aircraft were sitting then on the sides of the Naval Air Station. Again, it shows that war is expensive, and I hope we never see that again. But anyway, it was still quite a sight to behold. And we enjoyed San Diego. We had liberty there. What was always new to me was the fact that that was a real old Navy town, and they had tattoo parlors. Bryce and I think, resisted the tattoos, and but it was a great place. And one thing that I never got over, I don't know whether it's still legal, they had little card rooms, and you could go in and get into a little card game, penny ante card game, play poker. I never did that. I was never any good at it, but I'm sure they took a lot of sailors' money. I don't think they took Bryce's. He's like me. He's a little tight and had a little more sense about him. And but we did enjoy San Diego. The only one other observation is that they had brush fires back then up in the mountains, and Camp Pendleton Marines would help go up and fight the fires. We'd see them from our ship. We were there and went in and out. Usually about once a week we went out for several days to the Channel Islands, where one of them was a Navy firing range called San Clemente Island. Well, I think we probably nailed every goat on San Clemente Island with our rockets and so on. They had all this ammunition, and they figured, well, they might as well shoot it off, I guess, and that's what happened. We go out there and do that. And then I remember in October of 1945, though, we did go up the coast a little for Navy Day to Santa Barbara, California. And at Santa Barbara, the people were very nice, and we were able to go ashore. I remember that's where I visited my first old Spanish mission. And it was very interesting to, see the town. Other things that we did when we were out that way is I remember once going to a football game at Balboa Stadium. That there used to be an old Pacific Coast Football League. I guess it was pretty good, sort of one of the precursors, if you will, of the National Football League today. So we had a good time. And then, let's see, we